Hey, you guys, things are getting crazy.
Yep. So we're going to talk about big tech today. We'll take your guys' questions. If you guys have questions, just leave a comment on Periscope or YouTube. We would take calls, but we're not on the Periscope app. We're on StreamYard, so that we're broadcasting to both YouTube and Periscope. But we want to talk about big tech. First thing I want to get out of the way is that one of the things I've been getting questions all day: what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Number one thing you can do right now is reach out to Senator Wicker's office. Okay, Senator Wicker is slow walking the confirmation of Nathan Symington to the FCC. That is critical because Nathan would probably be the deciding vote on what happens with Section 230. Why it's been slow walked, I wish I could tell you. I don't know why there's no excuse for it. He should have been confirmed long ago. So reach out to Senator Wicker's office and ask why Nathan Symington has not been confirmed yet to the FCC and force them to do it. So we're coming on the heels of mass censorship yesterday on the New York Post Hunter Biden story. Okay, this is something that we've warned about for years, that this was coming, that they were going to use all levers of power. And I have to be extremely honest, what's happening now is the consequence of Republicans not using all of our levers of power. Okay, because if we had acted sooner, and by we I mean the leadership, okay, if they had acted sooner, this would not be happening right now. But I think what I got from a lot of people in my advocacy is they didn't believe big tech would go this far.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now we see that they're willing to. Here's the thing though, this is not everything at all. We've seen just the very tip of the iceberg. In fact, I think the most dangerous stuff is happening underneath the water where you can't see. What's happening in the algorithms, how stories are being suppressed when you Google, what stories and what websites, what news sites get downranked versus upranked, which things you see first versus don't see first, what gets prioritized when you search for something that has to do with politics. You know, those are the things that I think are actually having a larger sway. And we know at this point, Google by themselves can move over 10 million votes. So this is critical. There's so much to talk about here. I mean, just like they censored the account of the press secretary yesterday in the Trump campaign and suspended them for a certain period of time.
At some point, I feel like you can go after them in different capacities because, we talked about this before. Twitter at one point was a, arbiter of life-saving information when we were fleeing fires. So we have major police departments, we have fire departments, we have news, all on Twitter. So people are being denied potentially life-saving information in really bad scenarios, real-time information, where if they're deplatformed, unplatformed, you run that risk of when you are harboring, law enforcement officers, like emergency services on your platform, and you're denying people that, that's a real problem. The fact that this has gone on so long is just so maddening, that this issue, I mean, they knew this was going to become an issue. We have so many whistleblowers come forward. We know that they've been working on this. We know that they're just an extension of the Democratic Party. There is an agenda. We know the bias. We know all of this, and we just keep talking about it, and trying to get our levers of power activated. But to no avail. So I'm just wondering, what do we do at this point? Because it's not just about suppression of voices. It's not just, the ego, suppression of the ego. It's literally about eradication. Like when you remove people, you're socially exterminating them, and that every other facet follows suit, because people depend on social media for their livelihoods, for their businesses to thrive. So it's not just about, my voice is being suppressed, my opinion, my 2 cents. It literally is people's livelihoods attached to it, life-saving information. It's so much more than just mindless social media.
I mean, honestly, I can even see in our Twitter stuff. I mean, I've posted proof for a long time of the way they suppress all these accounts and everything. I've posted the way that they've allowed Chinese botnets to continue to do what they do. And we can even see it in our numbers. Like I have a screenshot from Periscope where we had like 800 live viewers, okay? And literally just immediately cuts off like 500 of them. And then I get messages after, hey, I got kicked out of the room. Who kicked me out? We didn't kick them out. So, these are things, social media is doing all kinds of things to frustrate people, try to make them not want to engage, try to make them afraid to post things. This is another thing about yesterday, is just making people afraid to post things because they don't want to lose their account.
Right.
So, they're putting that fear in people, and the excuse they had that they don't want to share potentially hacked material is just BS. Okay. They had no problem, letting every crazy lie under the sun go on and on and on during the Russia stuff. Okay. I think that the Department of Justice does have a strong case. I have to say, again, I'm going to be brutally honest today. I'm disappointed in the fact that they've done nothing. They've done no show of force. And they need to. Honestly, I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was President Trump. I was talking to, I don't know if any of you guys follow John Cardillo today, but he was saying to me, we were talking in private, and he said, Trump should get in his motorcade, go down to the Department of Justice, make sure some media knows and they see what he's doing, and demand that they do something now about social media.
This is election interference. This is a national security threat. Antifa, organized, Chinese CCP. There's so many, child pornography. There's so many different angles you can go at this from. And none of them have been exercised.
We're 19 days from the election, okay? And so I just want to say, I love Josh Hawley. I think he's probably the smartest senator on technology, specifically on big tech. And I love Ted Cruz. He's a fellow, Cuban American. But here's the deal. They are talking about subpoenaing Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg next Friday. That's 11 days from the election. I'm sorry, but that's there's not time. There's not time for that. It's, and it just
nobody has the right to be, I had no idea this was going to happen. You all knew it was going to happen. We knew, we all knew.
And I've also raised this behind the scenes to a lot of people. And like I said before, I think the biggest thing is nobody believed they would go this far. And let me just tell you, they're willing to go a lot further, because I think that, you go into the why. The why of it is, I think at the end of the day, a lot of these companies actually do want to be regulated because they want a clear sort of guideline here. And it also keeps out competition. When you regulate an industry and those regulations require you to be of a certain size, it makes the barrier to entry into that industry, like a new company, it makes it very difficult. Okay. So in that spirit, I think that they do want to be regulated. They just don't want it to be done by Republicans. They want it to be done by Democrats and be done in a way that reinforces their worldview. So to them, going all out in the way they are right now, they think poses no danger to them, because when they're thinking about this, they think, oh, well, worst case, Trump wins again. And if he does, he's going to do exactly what he would have done anyways. They get Nathan Symington on there. They go after Section 230, and then Republicans are the ones writing policy the same way that they would be right now. Well, if the same thing happens, though, and Biden wins, Democrats will be doing this, and they'll work with us. And, all you have to do is look at their comms people, look at the people who are in charge of this place, okay? Let's look at Facebook, Andy Stone, okay? He runs comms for them. He used to work for Senator Boxer in the DCCC. Okay, these people are all former Democrat staffers that work at all the major social media companies. I did a post before of it. TikTok's head of comms, Facebook's head of comms, Twitter's head of comms, Instagram's, every single social media website. Their head of comms is a former Democrat staffer or is a registered Democrat that has posted anti-Trump stuff, okay? So that's not an accident. And so that answers the why for a lot of people. Go ahead and ask your questions if you have any questions about tech.
You look at something like Backpage, right? That was an online marketplace used for a lot of things, but it ended up being something that was exploiting children. And Trump had it taken down. The DOJ took it down. They solved that problem. We know that there is child exploitation material on Twitter. There's maps. There's pedophiles operating openly. And how is there a different standard for applying when it comes to those laws and protections? How are we somehow not able to prosecute and go after these big tech giants? What is the real reason here? Who's protecting who?
Here's the other thing. If you're a Republican and you've taken money from big tech, you need to give it back. You need to return it. And I don't fault you for taking it in the first place, because donations, it's a hard game to win, and it's hard to even track sometimes, who all is donating to you, but you need to have your teams go through it, and you need to give the money back as a show of faith in your voters that you're not going to be bought by big tech.
It's kind of stupid
And so-
too. It's an anti-marketing campaign
Yeah,
you're
so
paying into.
here's the other thing. I want to answer this question. Teresa PA said, "Don't you believe in free speech? You think censorship is okay?"
Well, I think she's responding to somebody else. talking to somebody else.
Okay, maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I was gonna say, because I see that now. You're replying to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to address the free speech thing though, because I've actually gotten this question from somebody else. So I agree with Teresa here. She's responding to somebody else, but this is essentially, I want you to imagine that our press secretary was on the phone yesterday, and it was a national security. It was very important, okay, and she needed to get a hold of somebody, and it was with information that had not been verified by anybody yet, but it was given to her in a briefing, and she was given, let's say, clearance from the president to tell somebody else about it, okay, and she's on the phone doing that. And all of a sudden, somebody from Verizon, let's pretend Verizon's her phone company, somebody from Verizon pops on and says, "Hello, I'm sorry, Kaylee, you're not allowed to share that." And they drop the call, and then the person from Verizon says, "You can resume making phone calls in 48 hours, okay? They're essentially trying to put somebody in timeout to teach them a lesson about talking about things that you're not allowed to talk about. That sounds unimaginable, right? That's because we stopped phone companies from being able to do that. The government used their levers of power to stop phone companies from doing that sort of thing. The idea of even doing that sounds nuts to people. And let's be honest, stop using the word liberal to describe people who want to shut down speech, okay? Nobody in the Democratic Party right now who wants Republicans censored on social media is a liberal. Not one of them.
No.
The core tenet of being a liberal, one of the core tenets of being a liberal, is supposed to be free speech, okay? They don't stand for that. They are not liberal in any way, function, or form. They are the most illiberal, regressive people that I've come across in my lifetime, okay? When you want to shut down other people's speech, it's because you're afraid that what they have to say is going to beat your idea, okay? That's usually the reason people want to shut down.
Or threaten their agenda.
Or threatens their agenda,
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, this is election interference. This is a national security threat. I mean, you look at, and also the unequal application of standard, right, for terms of service. We have people on the left who have been caught repeatedly lying, and they're not held to the same standard.
Did you see this? So, like I said from the very beginning, Steve Scully lied. I'm going to let Landon talk real quick because I want to verify this story real quick, because unlike the fake news media, I don't say things without checking first. Well, technically I did, but I'm gonna verify it live here for you guys.
Wow.
But this is exactly what I said about Steve Scully, that he was a giant liar. He was for those of you that don't know, he was a former intern of Joe Biden who was supposed to moderate the second debate. And yet he confesses he lied after. Okay, so he said his Twitter account was hacked when he sent what was supposed to be a DM to Anthony Scaramucci. That was his excuse. And all of us said, hey, it's a lie. Go ahead and report it to the FBI. And let us know you did that. But remember, it's a crime to report it to the FBI. I think I said this in the live stream, didn't I? Last time? I know I tweeted about it, but I think we talked about it last time in the live stream too. He has now admitted that he lied, that he did in fact post that. And that was supposed to be your second moderator for the debate. So the Commission on Presidential Debates is officially a partisan, hackery, an absolute joke, and nobody should work with them ever again. In fact, the third debate, the Trump team should take full control over and make decisions about if they even want to have the moderator that is currently there, and maybe look at agreeing to a new moderator, because every decision that they've made now is compromised.
And a lot of, people on the left say, well, if you don't like Twitter, don't use it. They're free to do what they want. They're a company, and you would never say that you don't have a right to a phone line. You wouldn't say you have no right to the air conditioning, right? Based on your political views or ideas. And this not being regulated as a public utility for how it acts is really a shame that this hasn't been done years ago, not even on a political context, because we look at our education system, and Google hacked our education system. It wasn't just these fringe leftist activist teachers that infiltrated education. It was Google. Google had partnered up with CNN. They're in our classrooms in every public school. They get Chromebooks. They have access to Google search engines. They're socially engineering through AI. They're using technology to indoctrinate children and to expose them to things that are entirely inappropriate, also by design. And their only news sources and outlets are leftist-leaning outlets. So is it any wonder we've allowed this to go on so long and have said nothing, done nothing about it, and now everybody's really reaping, the effects of that? And I'm not blaming, us, as society. I'm blaming our leadership, the people that were supposed to be protecting us from this type of thing in education, the people that we voted in as advocates of education, advocates in protecting our access to information, life-saving information. It's Facebook. You can't have a kid on a soccer team, or you can't be a room parent in your classroom, or have your kid join karate without having a Facebook account.
Yeah.
So what happens when you are deplatformed? It now is affecting your ability to participate into society. So it's a form of social, it's like Chinese social credit system. It's a form of social engineering and shaming and unpersoning.
Yep.
And it's complete fascism. And it's unbelievable that something hasn't been done by our leadership years ago. Like I said, years ago. They've known about this so long. Nobody can say that they're ignorant
that's another
to this.
argument for the fact that we need to elect, better fighters, and I think there's a lot, there's something to be said for people who are reluctant politicians. I think that we need to elect more reluctant politicians, people who were not seeking this out, did not want it, but see that there's a fight and that it needs fighters willing to take on the fight it's going to take to change things. And that could sound like a self-serving statement because, as I've told you guys before, I'm considering doing something like that. But I'm being honest with you. That's why I'm even considering it, because I feel like the job that needs to be done is not being done. And we need fighters in there who know how these people on the far left work, who know what they want to do, and who know how to stop them. We apparently don't have enough of those people, because if we did, they would have been stopped at this point, or at least slowed down. And if anything, they're ramping up faster and faster and faster. Somebody asked, do these big tech companies receive government funding? So sort of, kind of.
Education.
So here's how.
Education,
This is how I was going to go into it. Is number one, if you have cloud computing, like say Amazon, you're getting tons of government contracts, which you have to clarify government funding. Is the government doing business with them, or is the government just giving them money? In the case of the government just giving them money, there are incentives and tax credits and money that they're getting back to bring jobs to certain places. So that's one way that they receive government funding. Then you have the cloud computing. That's another way. You have schools, them building in this stuff into schools and paying those companies for the technology, like Google Chrome, or Chromebooks, they're called, doing those. There's certain ways that they are getting government money, not in the grant sense, as far as I know. Like, they're not getting like gigantic ongoing grants, but the colleges spend money on them, which is coming from federal money. So directly and indirectly, yes, but it's sort of convoluted. And the girl is a woman, and she is my wife. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad they said girl and not tired old lady. That's nice. I don't know what to say, honestly. I really don't know what to say, because at this point, it does feel very daunting. There's a lot of tricks up their sleeve that they haven't pulled yet, and we won't have any ability to communicate with one another. We won't have the ability to message effectively. So, it's essentially like getting your phone line shut off.
Here we go.
Right before the election. That could absolutely happen.
I want you to take that
and
question.
So, do we get funded? No, we don't get funded. We've been defunded.
This is the most ridiculous question ever.
Oh my gosh!
I can't tell
we
you
have
the
to
number
answer
of...
this all the time. We do not get paid to do this.
We do not get paid. The
Any
Trump
money
campaign
that
has
goes
never
from-
paid me.
No, Any money that gets made from like the merch goes to like fixing our broken camera so we can shoot the show, paying for web hosting so we can have a website.
We're actually
This
shooting
is not
from
a
our
money
phone.
making operation. That's not why we do
We're
it.
shooting from our phone right now because our during the last episode with Abby Johnson, our microphones broke, so we're
Yeah,
buying
so if
new
you're wondering why
microphones right now.
that episode isn't up, we're having
Yeah,
to.
so no, the Trump
edit
campaign's
out of
definitely
that.
not paying us. We pay out of our own pocket to do this, and the people who do buy merch, they help contribute some of this stuff, but it doesn't even make a dent in the money that we spend.
No,
doing
this is not a money making.
I've also taken time off work to do this, to actively be participating in the political process and doing this, because I feel like if I can make a difference, and we're in a lucky position, where we're able to do that, we should.
That's why we're doing it.
Yeah. But yeah, happy to answer that question for the 1 millionth time.
Maybe we should put like a disclaimer or something like under our streams. Yeah, absolutely. We lost business. I mean, it's so funny because when people say, "Oh, you're a clout chaser, or you're opportunist or whatever," it's like, don't you realize that if we had kept our mouth shut, we'd be way more. Making way more money, all of those things.
Everywhere.
Like,
it's funny, well, because the things people on the left think matters, like they think they think celebrities matter, they think all that stuff matters. Like, we had all that stuff. We'd get invited to like anything we wanted to, and I directed like some of the biggest stars in the world. That's what a lot of them think is success, and let me tell you, it's not. So to those people, there's a lot of weird paradoxes they'd fall into if they actually go down the rabbit hole here of, I think at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is that they're just so bigoted and so racist that they don't think that, number one, a Latino would naturally want to support the president or be Republican.
Or be a family man.
Or be, that's just like some natural thing they have. And then on top of that, a young couple, and if we're just calling balls and strikes here, a beautiful woman like Landon, they would think, there's no way she's doing it unless she's being paid. No, some of us are just Republican. We just have more conservative values, and people have got to just get used to that, I guess. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, April Roga. It's a pretty good platform. They're getting better and better with StreamYard. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. The only thing I don't like is I haven't figured out how to kick people out from StreamYard. Which would be nice.
Can we do moderators? Do y'all know if we can do moderators?
Yeah, because if we can, there's some of you who are in here all the time who Landon was saying could moderate for us during these, if we're on StreamYard. Like, if we gave you permission on Periscope, you guys could moderate.
Yeah, thank you guys for your support of what we do. We're just gonna keep doing it until they cut the line. We're gonna keep doing what we do. It's a hard pill to swallow, but some of these people, we have to realize, don't want to wake up. Even if you show them all the facts, even if you show them all of the, corruption and everything and evidence, you can lay it all out in a shiny folder for them. And if they don't want to see it, they're not going to. And that's a hard reality to accept. So I just don't know if, collectively, if we're at that place where enough have woken up. I think they have, and I have faith that the results of the election might be astounding to all of us and put it in perspective just how much suppression has happened. That is my hope and my faith. But I also don't underestimate.
Yeah.
See, that's what. Here's the other thing. I don't underestimate the tactics of the left. There are no holds bar. There's no warfare ethos that they subscribe to. They will do anything. They will do whatever it takes to win. And so with that said, you're not playing a fair game. So anything could happen.
I'm not very flippant. I don't just flip my position on something for no reason. And a week ago, if you would ask me, I would have said Trump is going to win. Right this second, I'm not as positive as I have been. And I was, through 2016, I called it the entire way. I always said he was going to win. I never wavered on it. I am telling you that I'm not as positive today as I was a week ago, because so little has been done to stop big tech. And I don't think people realize the power big tech has to turn out votes, both in ways you can see and ways you cannot see.
Mm-hmm.
And the lack of action on both the side you can't see and what you can see is concerning to me. And I do have to point out something, okay? And this may not be, popular with some people, but I have to point it out. I've seen from a couple people, they think there's some like greater plan that they think that, oh well, if they don't do anything about big tech, it's so that people can see what's happening, and then they'll do something at some later. I'm sorry, it's
We've
bullshit.
Passed that point.
It's bullshit.
We've passed that point.
It's bullshit. There's nobody coming to save
stake.
the day in a week and a half. This is the reality we're in. If somebody does not act publicly now, very, very soon here, then we may have problems. And that means that's all the more reason to get people out to vote and to fight as hard as you can to make sure that you do everything you can do in a positive way to get people to vote.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to be really honest, like this is a big deal. I understand what big tech is capable of. And the people who understand it and people who worked at these places who are conservative and have left are all saying the same thing to me today, that they're worried because not enough is being done to stop these companies from using every lever of power they have to try to swing the election. And one of the things that I have to fault Republicans for is that we are too nice sometimes, and we're not using all of our levers of power in government to fight back the way that we need to fight back to protect everybody's ability to speak freely. Okay? Mm-hmm. It needs to be treated the way telephone companies are. You need to make sure people can say what they want to say and they're not shut down. If somebody says some crazy stuff, we can self-regulate. If I see somebody say some crazy thing, I'm capable of saying, hey, that's crazy. Okay? And we should be able to have those conversations with people. I don't care if somebody makes up a conspiracy theory about me and they say Robbie is actually an alien from Venus. I don't think they should be kicked off Twitter for saying it. Okay? I think that I should have the right to tell them they're a little nutty. Okay? That's it.
Well, I feel like this is a lot deeper than just politics. And what I'm concerned about is seeing the modification of historical trends, right? So it might not look like when they started making the Jews self-identify and calling them out and shutting their businesses down and forcing them to have curfews, things like that, right? It might not look like that today with the same type of, persecution, but it is in different ways. It's modernized. And I feel like people are missing that. And this isn't just about who's going to win the election and what our country is going to turn into. This is about social engineering and systemically eradicating people with conservative viewpoints economically, academically, socially, every way you can, every facet of life you can imagine. We already had, remember the Yelp thing? I mean, it's all over the place. All the signs are there. They know who you are. They know what your history is. A copy of everything you've ever said online is archived into a profile, and they know who you are. They know where you live. They know all of these things. They have access to everything. They have profiles, what we buy, who we work with, who we're friends with, what organizations we donate to, everything. They have been given too much power. And we're not just going to turn into a technocracy, but there will be some form. I don't want to, sound too extreme for people saying, oh, there's going to be a genocide or something. But I mean, let's look at history and at least protect ourselves and guard against it, because all the signs are following suit of what has happened historically when people have been given too much power and they start identifying and rounding people up and trying to exterminate them, even if it's just on a social level, even if it's just about their job. All right. What's next?
So, I wasn't listening because I was reading these comments. Sorry. Somebody asked, what is your site for merch? Go to growuplive.com. That's growuplive.com, growuplive.com. There's a merch tab there, and it has I Am Republican stuff, Grow Up stuff. Hold on, there was one that I was doing. So somebody said,
I need my own comment.
you loved big tech when it delivered Trump a victory in 2016. So they did not deliver Trump a victory in 2016. You know what 2016 was an example of? 2016 was an example of when you allow the internet to work freely. You allow people to exchange ideas. And guess what? Our ideas won. Okay. And are there conspiracy theories or bad things that get shared sometimes? Yes, but that's for people. We need to police it ourselves as human beings. I don't walk down the street and if I see Tim, Tommy, or Tammy saying something crazy on the street corner, I don't say, hey, you need to be shut down. I go by and I say, wow, they look crazy.
Well, it's interesting.
You know, that's it.
You know, Russia or China, right, could take out ads, right? And that they're in an uproar over election interference, right? China bought ads, right? But we literally have social media. Not only, I mean, they don't even have to buy ads because they are the ad. Their algorithms are the ad. Their deplatforming, unplatforming, shadow banning are the ad. It's just confusing because people don't think it in those terms of what they're doing as being election interference. But it's way more impactful than taking out an ad. And it's been proven, you know, that this is something that is market research. This is something that companies know. These are algorithms, they work. They know that this is effective. It's effective for suppressing, for helping promote messaging, and it's also effective for suppressing messaging.
Why won't WikiLeaks help? Nobody's sitting around waiting for WikiLeaks. You know, I mean, if you are, then you're I don't know what's going on in your brain at this point.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. There have been whistleblowers. This is the problem. We have all the whistleblowers we need. We have them. We have Google. We have Project Veritas. I mean, all these people have come forward. But if you suppress their voice, if you suppress that information, if media will refuse to cover it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's
like how they're calling sex trafficking a conspiracy theory, right? They're calling it a QAnon conspiracy theory, and it's not really happening, and you sensationalize because media won't report on it. They won't legitimize what's actually happening. They're social engineering your idea of what reality is.
Yeah. So there's a couple things here I want to cover too. This person said, if we look past the noise, what's your viewpoint on investment or research in the space and outer space technology domain in the near future? So if you're talking about big tech in general, everything's so big at this point, and the fact that they're begging for regulation means that they're actually trying to keep new players out. And I think that they're going to get that regulation, whether Republicans do it or not. It is going to happen. And if Democrats do it, then you definitely have a guarantee that there's not going to be caveats or any open spaces where new companies are going to rise up. So in that case, then if you believe in tech, which I think, obviously you have to know that our future is going to be inundated with technology, then, I would say for myself, those are probably pretty sound investments, things like Amazon and Google and stuff like that, just because of the fact that there will be no competition allowed. I mean, that's the virtue of when you regulate a big industry like that. You're essentially making the barrier to entry really high. And so any new player would have to be somebody with tons of money behind them.
It has to be, because that's the thing. It's not a free marketplace. They're monopolizing the flow of information. They're monopolizing media. I mean, it's like me coming to a room, the teacher, and being like, hey, I was deplatformed on Facebook, but I have this new startup social media thing. If you could join, then I could find out what's going on in the classroom with my kid. And if you could get everybody else to join my platform, then I'd have a chance to know what's going on and be a part of this. They'd be like, yeah, sorry, can't help you. Same thing with if you reach out to the fire department. Hey, LA Fire Department, I was deplatformed from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, but I really want to know what's happening with the fires in my area, and I want access to the life-saving information. Can you guys contact me on this new social media app I did? No, ma'am, we're not going to help you. Like, it's the same thing. They are a monopoly.
Okay, so going into there's a comment somebody made. They work at a software testing company in San Francisco, and they said, look, like if you believe in certain, of like anything like Q or stuff like that, those companies are actually using your searching stuff to track you and create behavior profiles. So I think that stuff actually is not helpful right now at all. It's really, I don't think it's very helpful.
No.
I think that it's something that is actually leading to apathy, where people think there's like some savior that's going to save them. Nobody's coming to save the day. That's not what it is. The only person who can save the day right now is people like us going out and getting people to vote. You know, if you get and make sure that you're responsible for 10 voters on election day, that 10 people go to vote because of you, that would have a larger effect on what happens than waiting for a savior to come in and just magically make everything better. Because I can tell you right now, that's not going to happen. There is not somebody who's going to come down from the clouds and save the day on election day. We are responsible for getting people out to vote.
I mean, I think it's kind of simplistic to just say, hey, get 10 people to show up and vote. It doesn't always work like that. It starts with conversations. But ultimately,
but you can literally go into your phone today and text message everybody in your phone and say, hey, do you have a plan to vote? Are you registered to vote?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say no, help them do it. And if they say, I can't, ask them, why? Can I help you? Whatever the problem is, maybe they don't have a car, and drive them there.
Okay.
Whatever the issue is, you can do those things. You can get one, you could get two. If you can get 10, fantastic.
Okay.
But, you know, there are things that you can actively do. You can also sign up to be a poll watcher. You can sign up to phone bank swing states right now. You can do that now. Sign up and do swing state phone calling, so you can call into these people who may or may not be voting right now and try to get people out to vote. You can go door knocking. You know, contact your local GOP and they'll hook you up to be able to go door knocking wherever you live and try to help there.
Are you going to be door knocking?
Well, I'm doing this right now, but sure, I'll go door knock.
I don't know. You got to be careful in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's true.
Knocking.
You do have to be careful knocking on doors in
There's
Tennessee.
this one guy that has this ginormous Trump sign, and it's like at a very accessible type of location where you know people have thought about stealing it. And this man is like this old man sitting on his porch, and I don't know if he's got a gun with him or not, but he's guarding that Trump sign. He's just waiting for somebody to get rid of it.
This person, Speed Trump, said BS. Cambridge Analytica says otherwise about big tech helping Trump 2016. Go search Cambridge Analytica right now. They were investigated beyond belief for years in Europe. And they just came out and basically said, no, there was nothing illegal. They did nothing illegal. They did exactly what every other group like this is doing on the left and the right. Okay, so the Cambridge Analytica story, it's another example of how these fake stories break through, and people like you, Trump bumps or whatever your name is, Speed Trumps, how people like you end up you get it hook, line, and sinker, and they get you. Go look up what happened now, years later, after all of the crazy tweets and crazy social media stuff. This is also an example of, I don't want that stuff censored either. Okay, you have the right to get hooked by this stuff, and we have the right to combat it and say, hey, you know what, you fell for a totally crazy lie. So go search it out and find out what really happened, because now the truth is out there. There are reports out there. The investigative body there in Europe looked into it. They found that there was nothing illegal that happened. What about social media being a publisher? It's obvious they're a publisher. It's obvious they are. Just go to the Moments tab on Twitter. So it's in the trending section. You know, they have news articles now. Now they're actually publishing editorial content underneath those moments to tell you what it's about. And in some of these cases, they editorialize, they add their own stuff. In fact, I caught them using a journalism term the other day. Was they used the word DEK, D-E-K, okay, which is basically, it's the sub-story explanation, okay, is what it means. They accidentally left the term DEK in there because somebody copy and pasted, which is a clear use of a journalism term that publishers use. Okay, so there's no arguing they're not publishers. They are publishers. You could ask Landon a fashion question.
A fashion question?
Yeah. I'm not sure that I would be a good fashion question person. Yeah, I'm a pragmatist. Okay, so I see some people asking about, different avenues of conspiracy stuff. I don't even really like talking about it, because this is again one of those things, like, I think that when there's things that are on the fringes, you know, you can allow it to be there. And when you see something specifically that you can debunk, go ahead and do it. When you can't, I don't give things life. You know, I'm going to work on making sure that I do everything in my power to make sure that America has, you know, stays free. And that's all I can do. That's what I can hold in my power. So let me see if there was any other questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're good. All right, I'm gonna hop off. So tomorrow there's an episode. Megan Fox, PJ Media. You want to explain the episode?
Yeah, so she's a writer. She's covered extensively the abuses and corruption within our CPS system. This is a must-watch for parents or grandparents, anybody who has an interest in protecting children. Many people don't realize that the majority of these children that are rescued from human trafficking situations were at one time in the foster care system, went missing from the foster care system, or had some ties to our child welfare system. So it runs very deep. Yeah, she's been covered by Tucker Carlson and some other, but she I don't know any other writer that is covering this topic as extensively as she has. And you know, I've been reading all of her stuff, and I wanted to get her on to talk about basically the abuse and the power that they have. And again, we're looking at how industries have been weaponized, right? Academia, entertainment, things like that. Well, unfortunately, CPS, you know, has been weaponized against the family and protecting the best interests of children. And this is something that has been swept under the rug, but one too many families have been affected by this abuse. So we're gonna expose that and talk about that.
Yep. Love you all. What was I going to add to that?
Yeah,
oh yeah,
it's 12 Central tomorrow.
She's been on Rush Limbaugh and Tucker Carlson, so she's definitely a good guest.
Yep, 12 Central. Yes.
Yeah, so you'll be able to watch on youtube.com/Robbie Starbuck or on my Twitter page, twitter.com/Robbie Starbuck.
Yeah, and please share, because you know they're trying to suppress this type of information. Is exactly the type of information they would not want out.
Yeah. So it's an important one. You know, I had somebody ask actually recently. I don't think it wasn't in here, was it? No. Somebody asked though about why we've covered the CPS stuff. I could have sworn I just saw it, but I don't see it now. But it's not a personal thing. It's not. It hasn't touched. You know, like I guess we know one person who had something terrible.
I know more than one person.
No, I mean like in like immediate, you know, vicinity type thing. But it's that we've had so many parents reach out to us that have had issues like this with CPS, and we've talked to just too many parents with just ironclad cases where they, in some cases, like Rachel Bruno, who we had on, she was paid over $1 million because of the fact that her kids should have never been taken from her, ever. She did nothing wrong. And she's a highly educated, great parent who has a great background, and it was just a totally bogus deal, you know. So that's why we're attacking it, because if you don't go after things when they don't affect you, eventually they may affect you.
Right.
And that's a good example with this big tech stuff, is that, you know, it may not affect you right now. Say you're in the center, or you're an independent, or you're even a Democrat who's watching this. Maybe it's not affecting you, but it will if you don't fight for it.
Right.
Because eventually the pendulum swings the other way. And that may take a decade, it may take 2 decades, it may take 3, but eventually the pendulum does swing. So make sure that whatever you're okay with now, or tacitly endorsing by being silent, make sure that you're okay with that happening in the other direction, because it will eventually.
Right, and this is an issue that also, you're not ending it yet, right?
No.
Okay, this is an issue also that if you care about the issue of human trafficking, that you have to examine, because it plays a big role in the vulnerability and access points to children. So if we don't talk about it, we're not really addressing some huge factors in the issue of human trafficking. So it's a big part of that activism and that work in the anti-trafficking space, is to cover every angle in which a child can be exploited, adults too, women, children, but my focus has been more on children. And so that's something we have to cover as part of my passion and my work with that. So, yeah.
All right, bye guys.